Now, if you have a national or regional business, like a big business, and your teams actually physically operate in different locations, it can happen that each division or every part of the business that is devoted to that location is at a different stage of maturity. In our case, we're talking about ABM, right? But it can be different stages of maturity in general as a business. As we know, you could be Coca-Cola as an enterprise, and then you could have very, very different, not that I'm consulting with Coca-Cola, I wouldn't be able to mention their name, but different locations, different regions, different countries could be operating in a different way. And I think that is extremely important to just understand at which stage are we as a division, as a team, where do we want to be? And is ABM even feasible for us? Like, for example, if a company
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Growth and Conversions Podcast. And more exciting topic, ABM. But this is going to be very special, as Veronika, my today's guest, is specializing in enterprise ABM, where enterprise is selling to enterprise. So, hey Veronika, welcome to the show. And can you please take a moment to introduce yourself, your current clientele, your experience?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Meg, for the introduction. So excited to be on this podcast / YouTube video, and excited for you all to watch today with us. I'm Veronika Vēbere. I've been in B2B marketing for 15 years, and 10 of those I've been mostly leading marketing teams in SaaS startups and also AI startups. Recently, last year, actually, I started consulting. So now I'm a fractional marketer for hire, either as a marketing lead or as a demand generation strategist, figuring out the best acquisition strategies for businesses. And more often than before, where we were relying on inbound marketing, ABM, or a way how to go out to market and target the companies that are on our wish list, again called account-based marketing, is becoming more of a priority for companies, especially for enterprise companies. I'd say I've been doing enterprise level ABM for the past 3 years. So I'm not a seasoned pro and doing this a couple of decades, but I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope to share some of the insights with you today, because through some of the approaches that I've done for some clients, we've been able to do things like 7 times more first meetings for the sales team and create doubling the amount of deals that the sales team creates. So really a targeted approach to targeting your accounts, and sales and marketing working together can have a lot of great results.
Exciting. I'm so excited for the recording. So I've been I run my own ABM. Plus, I work with clients who run ABMs and wants to run ABM. When they come to me as an inbound query, come up with a specific geolocation and with a list of 300 accounts. We want to start account ABM, one-to-one market ABM, sales-led emails with these many these are the accounts. In your opinion, what is actually real ICP versus wishlist account? What does the difference looks like, and how do you answer? How do you start the ABM?
Yes, a great question. This is very, very common. The sales team prepares a list. It's usually just a random one hot it's usually a company list actually exported from Sales Navigator or ChatGPT now or cloud, and you can see it by the formatting, because the only information that you get is the company name, maybe the LinkedIn company page, the employees number, industry, and maybe there's another detail. And that's how you know that that's not a target account list. This is just a list of companies that match a certain size or in a certain location. For me, a target account list is not just a whole lot of information, but it's actually prioritized based on that information. So, let's say we are selling we're selling software and we want to target all of the finance companies. They're the top finance companies now. It's so different. There's banks, there's lending companies. There's just so much. There's bank payments. So you need to be very specific about first the sub-vertical within the vertical, and then also understand things like their tech stack, understand what other tools they're using. Are you matching up with that? So there has to be like a lot of information, including like latest hires and whatever. And then there has to be a prioritization matrix that should say, can we feasibly, like if they reach out to us tomorrow, like if they raise their hand tomorrow, can we sell to them? Can we actually offer something to them? Like how likely is it that we're going to be able to sell to them? And the answer should be yes. But if it's no, then they shouldn't be on your target account list, or at least a priority for the next 6 or 3 months, right? So to answer your question in very short terms, I know that we're going to be chatting about this a whole lot, is that the target account list has to have a complete picture of the accounts that we're targeting, and it has to be prioritized. And ideally, it is prioritized more than just the sales and the marketing team. Actually, the product team also has a very quick look to understand what the particular pains and use cases are, and where we're most likely to actually make the sale.
I love this. Not everybody understands even now that ABM needs to be an orchestration of a task where marketing and sales works together. I know you prepared some slides for us. I'm so thankful and happy if you were ready to share. The recent workshop, you also mentioned that crawl, walk, and run, scale ABM. How does that look like? Can you please walk us through that and your slides?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I can walk you through the slides. Actually, not one workshop, actually multiple workshops have presented this. And it's funny because I came up with this concept. Well, I don't say that I came up with it because probably it exists somewhere else. But okay, can you see my slides? Yes, hopefully you can. Okay,
Yeah,
let me just...
slideshow.
Yes, okay, there we go. Oh, you can see the Riverside thing. Let me just remove that. Okay, so I'm not saying that I came up with this. Probably, ABM maturity stages exist before, but I came up with this slide very, very late at night because I was trying to really explain that there's different levels to ABM and how much you do at every stage, and that's totally okay. And since I run not 1 or 2 or 3, but I think 3 workshops now where I've shown this slide to teams, and it's been the favorite slide, especially for organizations that are, the more complex the organization, the more they like it, because for smaller startups, they look at this and go, yeah, we're going to scale enterprise ABM. We're going to do 1-to-1 personalized landing pages, and they just run with it like crazy, like not realizing that 1-to-1 ABM costs a lot of money. But yeah, I would love to take you through the ABM maturity of how I see it, the crawl, walk, run, and scale, and the way that it links to the different approaches of how we approach ABM, the tooling, and everything else. Happy for me to start?
Absolutely. All yours.
Yes, perfect. So yeah, I would say that the approach that you take to ABM really depends on your sales motion, the available resources, your average deal size. I mean, here I have 10K ARR, which is really, really on the low side, but you can still do like one-to-many ABM if you wanted to. But realistically, if we're talking enterprise, we're talking 50K ARR plus. It also depends on how big your marketing team is, how complex the product is, the buying process. So basically, like, just a caveat that this is the way that I see the maturity, but it will, like, your own unique case will depend on what the resources are. And the way that I see it is in 4 stages. So crawl ABM, which I like to call spray and pray, it usually means that there's no account-based marketing, or it's like a one-to-all approach where basically we have that list, that target account list that gets sent to you. It's 300 accounts. We want to go after this. Let's now, let's sell to them. And it's usually broad campaigns to everyone. Maybe we're focused on a vertical, like, oh, we want to sell to retail companies, or we want to sell to manufacturers. But and maybe we know a use case, but we don't know the intricacies of what's going on with each company, where they're investing their money, how much of their revenue comes from that. So for example, I recently had a client, they were in computer vision, and they were selling to consumer goods companies, but specifically like food and beverage. And just the intricacies of, things like, for example, Louis Vuitton, which owns a whole lot of things. It's a fashion brand, right? And it also owns Moet Chandon, I think, right? Like Moet Chandon, and because they're a public company, they will tell you how much of their revenue is from the drinks. And so you can see, like, I calculated even things like, okay, for very big global enterprises, how much the division that you're trying to sell to makes, in terms of revenue. And then we have that number as the total revenue against the account, right? Because it's really, really important, because that helps you with the prioritization. So usually in the crawl ABM, that's not present. We just have the brand and then we're going after it, supposedly. And we, there's no alignment between sales. There's usually a lot of finger pointing, and we don't, like, we have an account list and it lives in a sheet, but basically we want to do better. But yeah, it's
When do
pretty
you
basic.
start? Okay, so even for this spray and pray method, you would start selling them right away, or asking about understanding that what is actually happening. In your own example, you mentioned that how much beverages. So this specific information, do
Mm-hmm.
you get it nowadays? We have AI. So do you get all the information from AI, or you validate what this is what I found out? Is it really true?
No, of course. So in terms of the tooling, like, I definitely, like, God bless AI for the research capability, because really, like, you come in, you don't, not every client comes from the same space. A lot of the, every business is very unique. So the ability to go in and do a deep research on the industry, the state of things on the ICP, and trying to understand who the main players are and what are the distinguishing factors and who potentially you might want to sell to. Like, I do use AI quite a bit for that. I always manually check it. I have not yet had any, like, every sheet is prepared for me. I have to double check, but at least it's like it's, instead of spending 20 minutes on an account and vetting it, like, I can spend like a couple of minutes and just see if that's right. In terms of the process of working with the team, so I would take that account list, I would go in, I would basically vet it myself, and, like, to the best of my knowledge, try and understand if they're actually targets. And then I would go back to the sales team and the marketing team and say, hey, these are all the things that I found out. I think these should be included. These companies should be included. These should be excluded or made a marketing priority. Like, it's okay to run ads, but, like, you shouldn't spend time doing one-on-one outreach. And very often I actually come with a set of brand new accounts. And
I
those
know.
brand new accounts are usually because there's something that was said in the press about their new motions, or it's something like they've just recently had a lot of new hires. It's usually that. And once we agree on that target account list, I want to move it out of a sheet as soon as possible into the CRM. Like, it has to live in the CRM. Like, I do not accept any work to be done in sheets these days. I mean, some maybe manual campaigns, maybe, but, like, it has to live in the CRM, because then, we run ads, we see who's progressing, and it's just so important to have that single truth.
Absolutely. I love this approach. I recently I had a client, like, I don't know if you've seen the reviews on my YouTube videos as well, but we initially they were the reply rate was very, very low, and even the salesperson himself could say that I'm pitching on the first day one. uh, then and the way I changed the messaging, that okay, I'm not pitching on the day one, but we are
Mm-hmm.
actually understanding what actually happening within their account, within the company. And then there is a right time to, like, okay, this is our tool, maybe it might help you. And even when I ask very beautiful questions to everybody, that okay, what happens when sales does not close? Are you, like, going to, okay, after 3 months we'll come back and we'll again pitch, do the same sequence again, and expect the different result? Or are you doing something else in terms of marketing, like nurturing them? What exactly do you do? The question to you, Veronika, is when do you say that okay, we are ready to walk, and we're, like, move from one stage to run, like crawl to walk and run in your own terms, if I have to say? When do you say the account is ready, or the company, we are ready to move from crawl ABM to walk ABM and run ABM?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that the crawl to walk ABM, I think everybody should be doing or aspiring to do, in a sense that to get to that level of CRM hygiene, to have some sort of target accounts list, to track some signals that are important to, it's just, that is something that even a product-led company should do in today's age, I think, where inbound is much more haphazard and unreliable than it used to be. Like, if you think back 10 years, like, you could write a blog post and people would start a trial and ask for demos ridiculous. Like no one now, like very rarely people are going to find you. I mean, if you're recommended by an LLM, sure, and you've put in the work. But I think the biggest difference between crawl to walk ABM is that CRM hygiene, that the target accounts are actually target accounts, and that we know that when, let's say there's a Slack, that I've set up a Slack notification that notifies the team when someone, like a target account, views the pricing page, the marketing and sales team can both get excited because they know the account, they're sort of aware of it. They're like, yeah, I mean, if we could close this client, it would unlock so much more revenue for us, because, you know, that's how it works. If you close one client in a one vertical, you can go to their competitors and sell your tool, right? And then to everybody else who is mid-market, right, as well, because this big company in, let's say, consumer goods or electronics, they use you. You might as well sell to the ones that are at the bottom. So I would say that that's the biggest thing. And then from the walk to run, it's budget and resourcing, right? So to actually, like, something that companies don't realize, even if they're working with very high average contract values, like I'm talking 100K, or you have to invest money, you know, you have to pay to play, so to speak, right? There's a lot of things that you can do organically. Like you can, of course, do email outreach, and maybe you can go to some free events and send your execs, and like you can do all that. But if you want to do this in a meaningful way, like if you find out that your ICP, like your like the best customers, like your heads off, whatever, are on LinkedIn and they're actively using LinkedIn, the LinkedIn ads is a big thing, but you know, like that comes with a cost. So I would say from walk to run, it's budgeting. And can you actually afford to be using all of these tools, and can you actually dedicate time from the sales team to work on these initiatives, because they do take a long time, right? These enterprise deals, they take 6-12 months to close, and that's when the deal is created and the demo is done. So these things, you have to commit that, right? Commit to that.
Nowadays, data in every company is real mess. So starting like CRM hygiene and alignment or agreeing on internal SLAs, having that is more important in my opinion. So do you have some tips and tricks to convince the sales and marketing to work on the same account? How would you communicate?
I mean, we could have a separate conversation. We could have a separate recording about this. I think I've gone through everything, from teaching inbound teams to do outbound and kind of more outreach, and for, companies that are just starting to do enterprise selling, to go to that, and like market pivots and new go-to-market strategy. So I've been through the ringer. I would say that it's really at the base of it, you have to be transparent and communicate really well. Like, I think that's the biggest thing, that a lot of the miscommunication comes from the lack of knowledge over the responsibilities of who's doing what. Traditionally, the sales team has been doing the account list. Like it's been like, if you ask us organizations, usually a VP of sales or a head of sales who will decide, okay, these are going to be the target accounts, and very rarely actually the marketing team is even invited to that conversation. Marketing comes into place after an SKO, or a sales kickoff. It's a quarterly meeting, and they are presented with this target list of accounts, and the marketing team looks at it and they're like, that's either too little, that's either too many. We need a lot more budget to be able to target that, or like it could be, they're just like, oh gosh, like we could come up with better accounts. Why didn't you do that? And then the worst thing happens. The sales team realizes the same thing, and they start adding more target accounts. And so by the end of the quarter, you have not touched the original list. You have, so there's a lot of, so there can be a lot of issues. So I would say that setting those responsibilities early, and I think the target account list specifically, it should be a joint effort between marketing and sales, because very, very key thing, the sales team, when do they make money? They make money when they have meetings, right? They have meetings and they're communicating with clients, and that's what they're best at. Marketing, traditionally, really good at research, coming up with concepts, messaging, ideas, and all of that. And we can use AI to help us actually do this. And the sales team, I've just found that the sales guys or women are much happier when they have this, they see in front of them this target account list, which is pretty full, has all the contacts, and they can like cherry pick what they want, rather than starting from a blank page. So yeah, I would say target account list, core to this initiative. Then being very open about the, as I said, responsibilities, who's going to be doing what, sourcing, who's going to be doing messaging, where does the sales team need help, and where should the marketing team ease off. This is really important because the sales team, like if you've ever tried to give feedback on a LinkedIn message or a sequence that the sales team is sending, you will be met with a lot of stigma. Like they don't want, like they feel like you're kind of like, they love to share their opinion about a subject line in a marketing email, but they don't like when you edit their work. So it's very, very important that we know who's doing what, and that feedback loop is first of all there, but also that we don't step on each other's toes. And then in terms of the SLAs, as you said, like an internal SLA, like, okay, what are the different tiers of the target accounts and the different scenarios where we will be handing off the leads to you? Because that's what's going to happen, right? In the best organizations that I've seen, we work off the same target account list. The marketing team's list is usually a bit bigger so that we can actually run as many ads, unless you can afford to run one to few ABM campaigns. And then some of those, and then the sales team does their outreach. And then on a weekly basis, we kind of share the feedback between each other. And what can happen is that some companies might be engaging with the content, like on ads or whatever, a little bit more. There might be an event coming, and then the marketing team shares that insight, and then the sales team needs to respond to that. So there has to be an SLA for that. So and then the final thing I would say is the notifications and the automation of it. Like it's very easy to drown in all of the tasks that the sales guys need to do and all of the minute details. So you can use automation to set it up. So to summarize, in short, my biggest tip is to be transparent and collaborative and be very honest about the strengths of each team and what are their responsibilities. And in terms of what you really need to get the Walk ABM stuff right is you need a really good target account list that both the marketing and sales team believe in. You need to be able to know who's doing what at each stage of the process. And then you need to use automation as much as you can, leaving the space for those personal touches and adjustments on a weekly basis.
I love your approach and agreeing the SLAs, and first of all, CRM hygiene. So that's the first step, which is absolutely essential. I also like your second approach, agreeing who's going to do when and what, and so being honest and transparent, because that's when the whole success will come. I don't think nowadays that only one sales team or one marketing team can drive the pipeline or close the deals. So both have to work hand in hand. But inside the large, when we're talking about inside the large enterprise account, different division can be completely different. ABM, their maturity level different. Can you actually, can you explain how do they actually manage that, and what are the playbooks that you run each division wise?
Great question. Yeah. So enterprises are huge, right? They're very big companies, sometimes 1,000 employees and multiple thousands. And every division is at its own maturity, so to speak. You know, there might be, let's say you have an HQ somewhere and then you have 10 other offices all around the world. It's very common that those different offices and businesses operate at different levels, even nationally. When we talk about ABM, we need to think about actually the countries that we're, well, the businesses that we're targeting and their location and everything. So for a startup, selling in one primary market like the United States or the UK, it's pretty simple. Sometimes even the same team might take multiple different accounts in different regions. But when you actually have those dedicated teams and different divisions, things are a little bit different. So I have a little example here. So because you will have the divisions at different maturity stages, and the first step is to understand where they are at, right? And what actually is the goal and what makes sense for them. So I like to do a example, for example, I like to mention the example of depending on depending on the targets of each division, you will pick the best ABM strategy and also budgets and how much resources that you want to pursue. Once you have that, so that's once you actually audit where you're at. Are you still working off of a sheet, or you actually have things in the CRM? Or even beyond that, and then you set the goal of where you would like to be and what kind of initiatives you want to do, then you can build a plan. Something that I keep saying, and I will that I say and I'll keep saying, is that you can't pull everyone up together at the same time. There's never going to be enough budget, political will, like you will not be able to unify all of the different divisions to get to the same level. So you have to treat each division individually, because also each division will have their own strengths. Maybe one market is more digital, and you can get a lot more results if you're doing digital activities when it comes to account-based marketing, whereas some will be a lot more in person and events driven, and you have to take that into account. In terms of like getting to stage 3, where you're using quite a bit of automation, quite a lot of tools already and all of that, that can only happen after you prove a pilot with account-based marketing, and that you know that it works and there's actually something to scale. Like if your ABM level is 0, or you're spraying and praying, like don't right away get the most expensive tool in the in the toolkit, spend tens of thousands and things like that, because it just won't help. And of course, you need to be really like the leadership has to be aligned and aware of all of the strategies and the options. And then in terms of because that was the end of your question, like how I would actually manage it. So the way that I do this is I run a pilot. And that's oftentimes, I would say that's the first time we ever do ABM and want to make sure that we prove results and all of that. Or it's actually, we've done some ABM, we want to do it better and we want to go to stage 3 right away. So depending on the client, depending on the situation, we run a pilot either way. And we're very specific about what are the goals of the pilot, what are we doing, who's going to be involved, what are the responsibilities, how much resources that's going to take, and what we're hoping to achieve, and how much money we're putting behind it, what is the expected outcomes, and then what success looks like to us. Like if we do reach this, what are we going to do? What are the next steps? And then we just keep checking. So like a more practical example, because this is just a slide, but you might ask, hey, Veronika, but like in reality, like how does this happen? In reality, we have the pilot plan, we have the target accounts, and every week we work through the different things that we're doing, either that's advertising or outreach, and then we see which companies are engaging, responding, and then we are optimizing the target account list and the initial assumptions about who could be a potential customer or not. And then as the time goes on, we're always checking back towards like what are the KPIs, and very often the KPI is that first meeting. Like that's the one where we definitely want to get to and prove. Because if we know that the first meeting, like a cost per lead for us is $500 or euros or pounds, and we're able to spend 500 or 300 for an ABM sort of lead, then that means that we're almost 2 times as effective as getting leads and meetings through ABM efforts. And that's what you want to essentially be able to answer. Can we acquire these meetings or generate these first meetings at a better rate than our regular efforts? And if we do, then that's usually a really good, solid talking point to scale ABM, not in that just company and division, but across multiple divisions. I would say that that's how I would approach it. So yeah, from evaluating where we are to setting realistic expectations, and then picking the best format for the pilot, and then being very vigorous in our approach of testing and being very on it every week. And then hopefully we've reached our goals. We've increased the meetings. We've increased, deal velocity, so to speak, and everyone's happy, and then we can scale.
I was consulting recently one of the client, and it was in cybersecurity. And what I see is demand generation manager, she introduced, we have a 2 ABM tool, also demand base as well as 6sense, both the ABM tool at the place. However, nobody knows how to use that. When I joined, she was about to leave. This is the reality happening at the starting. People, oh, the tool will do amazing stuff. And people are introducing to the tool even before the pilot. And the management team, okay, tool is going to do this. Let's buy it for 1 year. Because the yearly subscription has discounts. 10 point, I have so many tools, I don't know which data lies where.
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
I join companies, when I start the pilot, first of all, I see where the maximum data lies. Okay, these are the tools I will start using, not every tool, or maybe I need to bring all the data from different tools or different places to the CRM, and then we can run. So for me, the pilot starts there. Personal experience, right? But I would add it here. When you mention reality, this is the reality. 4 or 5 teams in the, like 4 or 5 people in the marketing team sitting at one place, and they have a sales team across Australia, APAC, EMEA, everywhere. Communication and adjusting their level of understanding is absolutely getting difficult, and that's why the question is, would you run the pilot for each division separately, or each country, each geolocation separately?
A great question. And I love that you added the tooling bit, because nothing, you know how difficult it is to get budget for those tools, and you spend so much time to get that budget, and then in the end they don't get used, or they're not useful because nobody is adding deal information or logging meetings. So I can resonate with that a lot. And then going back to the answer, is that I would say that whether I would run the pilot across multiple divisions at the same time, it depends if there's a willing stakeholder in that division. So if there's like a very willing head of sales or VP of sales managing a division that you can partner up with, and they are willing and they believe that they can give you an account exec and an SDR or whatever for this initiative, then absolutely you can run multiple pilots at the same time, because enterprises selling to enterprises, we know it's 12 to 24 months, 6, 12 to 24 months to close a deal. So the sooner you start, the better. Right. So if it's possible, I would run multiple pilots, because a lot of the playbook would be the same and it's easier to adopt. But again, going back to your thing, like 4 to 5 marketers, usually it's just one marketer and an ops person trying to figure this out. So you don't want to be stretched too thin as well on the marketing side. And actually, these sort of ABM projects are great for consultants like us and the fractional demand generation people, because you can have someone come in, help you set up the foundations, really test it out, right? And then you can decide, is this something that you want to do more of the time, or you want to even hire someone in-house? So yeah, I would say, going back to your question, multiple pilots possible if you have really good relationship, or the sales leadership believes it, because they can push it from the sales side. And if the marketing resource allows, then absolutely possible. But you shouldn't burn out doing it.
Specific question that I wanted to ask: who should not try to scale the ABM? What is the right time to scale the ABM?
Mm-hmm.
And who should step away from scaling the ABM?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a slide here, but I will see if I can expand on it, because there are definitely places where you wouldn't do it and places where you would definitely do it. So let's talk with the no's first. So if you are a company that still cannot agree on your CRM, like your CRM data is still messy, and the sales and marketing can't agree on the ICP, or at least on the focus, because we know the TAM, like the total addressable market, and most companies are pretty good with that. I think they say, oh, like we could potentially take a percentage of this market, because the competitor owns this much, and if we take a slice, so they're pretty good at that. But the actual ICP focus for the quarter or for the year is very difficult for most companies. Like if you have 10 ICPs, that's not ICP focus, unless you of course have like a 20 people marketing team and 100 salespeople that you can actually manage this. But yeah, so you can't agree on the ICPs. I would say definitely not. Or if doing ABM, it will be a waste of time. Average deal size below 10K. So yeah, like I would say 10K would be the absolute minimum where you could start doing some aspects of account-based marketing to make it work, like some LinkedIn ads, advertising with some signal tracking and all of that. and events, but realistically in an enterprise setting, like 50K would be the minimum, because you would want to dedicate the time for the salespeople. You want to have some marketing budget behind the account. And by the way, this is something that most companies are not comfortable with. Like the ones that have done ABM and one-to-one ABM, they're pretty comfortable and they know what this means. And they talk about budgets per account, right? So they would have a certain amount of budget dedicated to targeting a specific account. So let's say we want to sell to Amazon. It is our ICP, like maybe there's a subdivision of Amazon that we want to sell to. And we say, okay, average contract value is 100K for us. With Amazon, that would be 300K. We're willing to spend 50K to get this account. Right. And then it's a completely different conversation, like one-to-one ABM. We have 50K to spend to target Amazon this year. What are we going to do? Whereas most companies, we want to do account-based marketing, but they're not even willing to pay $200 extra to track their LinkedIn ads better. And then another one why it would not be a good time is if you don't have any customer proof points, case studies in that particular ICP. And what I mean by this here is that if you haven't, like if you want to sell to sorry. Now I will restart. First time, pretty good. And then another reason why you wouldn't want to do ABM is in the case where you haven't closed an ICP account yet. Now, in an enterprise setting, this is usually relevant if, let's say, you're pivoting, you want to enter a new market, a new industry, and you don't have any examples or customer case studies that you can shout about. And the reason why this is a no, it's because in outbounds, if you are going out to market, the way that you capture attention is if you have some unique research, if you have a really good customer case study. And if you don't have that, then a lot of the outreach and everything is very theoretical. What you want to be able to achieve when you do ABM and outbound is you want to reach out to someone who got the message and it's immediately clear for them that they should at least spend 20 minutes on a call to figure out if it's right for them for the gain that they can get with your software or tool or service or product.
But with one of my clients, we are selling the AI solution for enterprise where things will get automated. But before that, I absolutely do the research. Do they have enough people? Is the process set? Because even if there is an AI, if the process internally is not set, then the AI will not work. Or even if whatever the AI is working, it will not give the accurate output. So the internal resources are there properly. So these kind of internal company research is extremely important, and as EBM, I try to understand. So before even outreach or sell my product, I would first do, is your company ready to use my product?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not there, then I will have churn buying my product. So there is no point, and I will not have a good case study. I don't have my whole ABM budget is going to go waste. So even before I sell my product, I encourage nowadays, right, let's do the research. Are we ready? And that is the additional source of income or resource that I like. This is how I communicate to the management team that if they are not ready, so then we can guide them, help them to use the tool effectively. Maybe that could be another service charge. I have next episode coming up with on the pricing. Nowadays, getting new logos or working with the greenfield account is becoming challenging more and more.
Mm-hmm.
About that, serving those existing clients to use the product better.
Mm-hmm.
So even expanding the ABM right there is more useful than going behind the greenfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
The
super
question
cool.
to you is, the question to you is that when you mention leading indicator, what are the leading indicators that you would track? To prove that whether ABM is working even before the pipeline actually shows up. And let's not talk only about the leading. Let's also talk about the lagging indicators.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of data that we can track besides the first meeting and the deal being opened and when it's, the amount when it's closed. I would say that good way how to think about it is that there is the sort of the top of funnel benchmarks that we can look at, and also the engagement metrics that the guys. I keep referring to the guys as the sales team. That's because not enough women are in sales. I think that is a team that always benefits from having more ladies on. But yeah, anyway, so there are indicators like that we can benchmark against, like for specifically on the outbound side, what is our connection rate on LinkedIn? What is the reply rate? What is the basically, like, are people responding and reading these emails? Are they actually landing? And then maybe they are at least creating some conversation, at least getting some additional information, even if they're not booking those meetings. On the marketing side, depending on what kind of content we have, so for LinkedIn advertising, for example, you can do ABM on. Of course, you can track your click-through rates and impressions, and also the CPCs against other channels. And also the benchmarks, and see whether you're in line with the industry. This is also something that people don't realize, like they realize, but since ABM actually brings in like the sales people to come into the conversation, like just explaining like, hey, the more ads or the more competitors are advertising, the more expensive it is going to be. And so that's why for some industries, a click is $4 or $5 or $10. And for some industries, like cybersecurity or AI, it can be even 40, and that's how much it costs, right? So just monitoring all of the performance metrics on the advertising side, but also the website side, and trying to understand, are we reaching the right people? Are they actually? But then there's other data, of course, in relation to the account-based stuff, which is the account. I have the next slide here, which is also the account engagement rate. You can use tools. So I specifically use this with LinkedIn ads, but you can also set up scoring in your favorite CRM. Like I use mostly HubSpot. So basically what we want to track is that on an account level, are we engaging more contacts that are relevant? Are they, guys, are we getting familiar with, like, are we becoming familiar to the account, so that when we do outreach to them, the feeling that they should get is like, hey, I think I've heard of these guys. They're everywhere. This company seems to be everywhere. Like, okay, I'm going to have a meeting or a call with them because it feels like they're popping up. Because that's what you want. So you definitely want to look at the account level engagement rate. And also I like to track of those accounts that are being targeted, like how many of those are target accounts specifically. And then we basically, like, I like to have a scoreboard with the sales team, is like, how many per month, like, are we able to have a first meeting with? How many a month are we able to have engaged? So there's a lot of different metrics, I would say, and the ones that matter to each company are slightly different. But to answer your question, is that definitely there are things that we can, like leading indicators that we can track. Now, on the lagging side, if the guys again, if we're doing outreach and it's not landing, and if we're running, advertising and we're spending tens of thousands and it's not producing any meetings, we have to ask ourselves why. Right? Like, we have to be very honest. And sometimes I've seen cases where the ads are great. Like, the ads are great and people are landing on the page, but they're not booking that demo, or they're just like, that last step is missing. And that can usually sometimes be a trust issue. Maybe the ICPs just need a personal touch, or meet you at an event, or have someone they trust mention you, and then finally they will book a meeting, in which case it's totally fine for account-based marketing to continue to spend and everything. But sometimes those benchmarks are okay, but we're just not reaching. It's still not clear. And that's where we have to go back to the messaging, the use cases, the pain points, and really try and understand, how are we trying to capture the attention of these accounts? Are what we're saying even relevant to them? Is it resonating? And in some cases, like, I would even do like a middle to solve that lagging indicator of no first demos, first meetings for the sales team, because that would make anybody nervous. I try and get creative with the offer. So instead of the demo request, we start, getting, for smaller startups, this is possible, like founders or heads off or VPs, kind of saying, oh, hey, would you like to chat or meet our VP for a dinner? Like, kind of like these joint dinners, in-person events, and try and invite people to those, like getting very local and very specific, and trying to meet people in a different environment, just to get the information. So yeah, to summarize, lots of different data that we can track. And if something is lagging and something isn't working, we have to be very honest about it. Like, worst case scenario, we run an ABM pilot for 3 months and we only look at the data after the 3 months. Like, that's not something that we want to happen.
So I like when you mentioned that, okay, let's have the dinner or understand each other. This is a great example, but can you give some example to improve the engagement rate that we can implement immediately?
Oh, yeah. So how can we basically get the signals that they are the ones that we want to target, right? Awesome. Okay, yeah. So some of the things that I like to look at for sure is, well, first of all, are they a challenger in the market, or are they like a hardcore enterprise, old guard type of enterprise company? And the reason for that is because, like, if it's a true enterprise, like, imagine you wanted to sell to Microsoft, the buying cycle, everything was going to be very, very, very complicated and very long. However, there is this subset of these mid-market companies, so to speak. Like, there's almost like between a mid-market company and an enterprise company, there are these companies that are very big, but there's sort of emerging challengers. So I always like to check, how long has the company been around? What is their growth rate? What are they focusing on? Maybe some PR, releases that say that they're going to be investing in a particular area more, like research and development. Have they made a recent acquisition? Anything like that could signal what is their sort of, basically, not character or persona as a company, but basically, are they willing to grow? This is the question that we want to answer. Is this the type of company that is willing to invest in new technology and devote resource to it to grow? Because, we work with startups a lot of the times, or tech businesses, and we do have an easier way at time selling to companies that are for innovation. That would be one thing. The other thing that I always check is the details on the industry. Even in the case of the food and beverage, like, food and beverage is huge. Like, you have fresh foods, frozen foods, you have ready-made foods, you have ready-made meals, you have white label brands, you have brands that we all know of. And in all of that, like, they have different types. Like, every company has their own priorities. And actually, a company might come to me as a client and they might say, oh yeah, we want to target food and beverage. No, I think you want to, target specifically these drinks and these snacks companies, for example, because those are the best fit for the product. And we have to have that level of detail. And then the third thing, if we want to speak in threes, I love checking the tech stack information. Like, if we're selling software and we know that, I don't know, we have an API and we connect to everything, that's ideal, right? But very often, these big enterprises, they are on a particular hosting solution. They work with a particular marketplace. So it's like either Amazon, things like that, and or Microsoft Azure. And if you sell to an enterprise and they only buy through the Amazon marketplace, that's just their company policy. They're not going to buy a standalone, product. They're only going to buy through that marketplace. If you're not on that marketplace, should you be outreaching to them in terms of ABM? Probably not at this stage. And it's easy to find out this kind of information, relatively easy. You can find out through conversation. And it can save you a lot of time and a lot of wasted effort. And also, getting that information on the tech stack of your ideal customers is really useful to the product team. Especially if you're the type of software company that wants to sell to enterprises. It's very, very often very difficult to pick which marketplace to be on first. And just answering that question, doing that research helps you to figure that out. So to summarize, I love to understand if it's a challenger brand or a very traditional, what is their thinking, where are they investing in? Second is really getting a good feel of the industry verticals and sub-verticals, and actually the products and the makeup and the philosophy there and what could be useful. And then the tech stack. I think if you have those three things for your accounts, you can make some really good decisions about who to prioritize.
Love this. Thank you so much. It was really great conversation. To close this, I have all my listeners at the moment are at the stage 1 of the ABM, and ready or want to go for the stage 2 of ABM. What is the one thing that would you recommend to do it in this quarter to move from one quarter is again too big, so
Yeah.
sorry. So what is one thing that would recommend to do it immediately for the next 15 days
hmm
that they should do before to move for the next stage?
Yeah. And the first stage, we understand crawl, ABM, spray and pray, right? So no ABM at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had this closing slide here. One thing to do this week or these couple of weeks. Pick 100 accounts. Okay, 100 accounts, and these could be, when we talk about target accounts and ABM, there's different tiers to the accounts. So usually there's a tier 1, a tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 would be your absolute sort of Moby Dick, white whale sort of client. Like if you close it, like the whole team celebrates, they open the champagne in the office. If we get this logo, like it's great. So what I would say and recommend that you do, go and pick those 100 accounts. They could be just from the ideally they're the tier 1 stuff, but they can also be tier 2 and tier 3. And like really, really do some research on them. Like some of the things that I mentioned, like what is their standing tech stack, maybe even some recent hires, right? If you want to get that granular, put them in your CRM with this information, right? So make an import into HubSpot or Salesforce with all of that information, including the LinkedIn company page. Will save you a whole lot of time trying to run ABM advertising later. And get the sales to agree on that list. Actually, maybe the steps are a bit wrong. You would want to show them in the target accounts in the sheet first, but regardless, you can also show them in the HubSpot CRM, for example, to show them how beautiful a full list could look like, and just get them to review and see where they agree, don't agree, who you cross out, and that's it. You will immediately enter stage 2. You will be ahead of so many different companies if you do these two things. One, pick 100 accounts and do some research on them, like proper research, prioritize them, make sure they're truly the 100. Get the sales team to agree and get them into your CRM. There you go. You're already in stage 2.
I love this. This account selection is the most important, and that's where many people does the biggest mistake, I believe, and that's where the ABM fails. I think this is my personal experience, and I'm glad that we both are on the same. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And I loved this conversation. Any feedback, anything you want to challenge, happy to, please feel free to challenge, reach out to either of us on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and we'll get back to you.
Absolutely. Yes, Veronika's LinkedIn is definitely mentioned in the description. So, and her website is also there. So, and she's absolutely active on LinkedIn. That's how we connected. So, all the listeners out there, reach out to Veronika or us, and we're happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mag.